All right, so we are continuing on with chapter 1. We are doing section 1.5 today. It's all about angles and their measures. So you can follow along with your notes. We're going to first talk about the parts of an angle. So when I say the sides of an angle are the rays that make up the angle. So in this particular angle, which you should label on your notes as well, the sides are ray AB. Notice we start at A, goes through B. That's why it's written with the A in the front, then the B, then the one arrow ray symbol. All right, a lot of you struggled with notation on that quiz last week. All right, the other side still starts at A, but it goes through point C. So A, C, arrow over the C. Now, that spot where they both start, that point, we call that point the vertex. So in this angle, the vertex is point A. It's the end point where the rays intersect. Whoops. All right, I'll pause there for you guys to catch up. Next, we're going to talk about naming angles. There are multiple ways to name angles. The first way is to name them using 3 letters. The vertex always has to be in the middle. So when you're using 3 letters to name the angle that you see on the board, you first draw the angle symbol. Here the angle symbol kind of looks like the less than symbol. More typically it's flatter. It usually looks more like this on your worksheets. That symbol doesn't exist in a PowerPoint though, so it kind of looks a little different. But anyway, you use the angle symbol, start out on one of the rays, then the vertex, then out the other ray. So we could call this angle LMN, or start on the other side, NML. You just have to make sure the vertex is always in the middle. You can also name an angle using 1 letter as long as that letter is the vertex. So you could simply call this angle B.
Will we get
No.
one wrong if we just do?
Well, I'm going to explain when you can use each way. So you could call this angle ABC. You could call it angle CBA, or you can call it angle B. Most people are like, well, I'm just going to always use the 1 letter. It's obviously the easiest one, right? Here's the problem. Sometimes there's more than one angle with the vertex B. So like if I draw that and put a D out here, now I can't just say angle B because here's an angle B, here's an angle B, there's a big angle B. So the 1 letter approach works sometimes. It doesn't work all the time. So if it's the only angle with that vertex, you can use 1 letter. But if there are multiple angles with the same vertex, you cannot. So I'm going to get rid of that because it's tripping us up. So in this case, there's only 1 angle B. Questions? This is actually the one I think is the easiest, but it isn't always set up this way. Sometimes you'll see a little number inside the angle. Don't confuse it with like this. That's the degree measure. It's not that. It's just a little number, like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4. No degree symbol. You can use that number to name the angle. So you could call this angle 1 because this angle has a little 1 inside. Any questions? All right. Name all the angles in the figure. Anyone think they know one of the angles?
A.
Yeah.
Riley.
Go on. I was trying to not say his name because it's going on YouTube. But yes, sir, 2 seats ahead of me. Go.
Is it XTUS?
So you could use XTU. That is this angle right here. XTU. Does anyone see another angle?
Sucks. XUX.
Nope. SUX is not an angle. Go on. STX. You could go the big angle. STX. Good. There is one other angle up there. Yes. STU. Yes. You need 3 letters. Good. Now, of course, you could name these in reverse. You could say angle UTS or angle, UTX, XTS. Those are all the same ways. That's listing multiple ways to name the same angle. This just says name all the angles. So as long as you name them once, that's fine. Could I say angle T?
No.
No, because there are 3 different angles with T as the vertex. So you have to use the 3 letters here. Any questions? All right, moving on. The measure of an angle is written in units called degrees. If we're talking about the measure of an angle, like the measure of angle A, you'll see a lowercase m, usually in italics, then the angle symbol, then the A. So if you see measure of angle A, your answer should be a degree measure. And we learned about congruent segments yesterday. Congruent angles are the same idea. They're just 2 angles with the same measure. All right, so there are 4 different ways to classify angles, and it all depends on how big the angle is. What's the measure? So if the measure of the angle is between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, we call it an acute angle. The way I remember this is these are the little ones. They're just so cute. Okay, so we call those acute angles. If they get up to 90, that's when they're right here. This is a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angles are the ones that you see most often in the world, like the corner of a room or the corner of a door or where the wall meets the floor. Those are all 90-degree angles. If you're thinking of like a hinge, like this is the smaller one, this is the perfect little 90-degree angle. If you keep opening wider, you get an obtuse angle. Obtuse are the really big angles, okay? So 90 to 180, and then if you hit 180 exactly, that's a straight line. We call it a straight angle. But it's really the same thing as a line, and it's 180.
Okay.
Kind of like when you're skateboarding or whatever. I don't know. In sports, they're like, you did a 180. It's like you're facing one way, now you're facing the other way. Same thing here. If you do a whole 180 degrees, it's just a straight line. You're going from one direction all the way to the other. What? So if you kept going, if you open it even wider, then we usually just talk about like this guy would now be an obtuse angle. You know what I mean? You'd go past the 180, we'd probably start focusing on the other side. But yes, you can go above 180. We just don't talk about those much. Any questions on classifying angles?
No, ma'am.
4 types. In each picture, name an acute angle and an obtuse angle. Yes. Oh, I did not call anyone. I'm sorry. I'm just pointing. Yes. GFH is an acute angle. That's not the one that pops up. Angle GFH. Perfect. Do you have an obtuse angle? What is it? EFH. Yes, that is obviously an obtuse angle, angle EFH. I would avoid the one if you're not perfectly, like EFG. That looks like really close to 90 for me. I would not be comfortable calling that acute or obtuse. So that is correct. Good. Do you want to do the next one? Go for it. So name an acute angle on the next one. Angle LJM looks like the smallest angle. That's this guy right here. Good. So we're going to do the next one. Go on.
IJM.
IJM is the largest angle on number 2. I would go with it. What are your questions? So yesterday we learned something called the segment addition postulate. It basically said if you have 2 smaller segments and you put them together to make a larger segment, you can add their lengths to find the length of the larger segment. That works for angles too. So this is saying if you have P, see how P is right here? It's a point on a ray that's inside an angle. If you know the measure of RSP, so this little guy up top, and you know the measure of angle PST, you can add those together and it will give you the measure of the whole thing, angle RST. Exact same ideas as yesterday. Now it's just with angles instead of segments. All right, so these both say find the measure of the given angle. So in number 1, you can read down here, number 3, you are looking for the measure of angle ABD. So A starts out here, B is the vertex, D goes out the side. How would I find the measure of that larger angle? You would add the smaller two. 41 and 44 is what? 85 degrees. Done. Now, on the next one, we're given the whole angle, right? It's saying this big angle. Sometimes you'll see it like that. That little mark means like that's the whole measure, that whole thing. So if the whole thing's 90 degrees, angle RAT is 34 degrees. I'm looking for the measure of angle CAT. What would I do? You subtract the whole angle minus the small angle you know. 56. Good. 56 degrees is the measure of angle CAT. What are your questions?
How did you know that the first one was 34?
So it's right in the diagram, and then the 90 degrees was in the directions. Sometimes it's a mix of directions and diagrams. So the directions on number 5 say find the measure of the given angle. So we are looking for YZX. So this guy right here, I'm going to trace it in red. What I know is that WZX, so the whole thing, the way I usually do that to show the whole thing. So the whole thing is 12x plus 32. And then this little guy, WXY, is 4x minus 19. So the whole thing, 12x minus 32. The little guy on the left, 4x minus 19. I'm looking for the little guy on the right that I highlighted in red. What should I do? Subtract. And I'm going to write it just like an old school subtraction problem. Actually, I'm not, because I want to show you something. Sorry, I lied. So I'm going to do 12x plus 32. When you're subtracting an expression, make sure you put the expression in parentheses first so that you remember to subtract each of the terms. You are subtracting 4x. You are subtracting negative 19.
Hey, those are like back to the so it's two minuses stuck together.
Yeah, 2 minuses stuck together is like a what?
It's not.
Like a plus. So if you just want to write that as a plus, you can. What is 12x minus 4x?
8x.
So we got 8x. What is 32 plus 19? And that's positive, so plus 51. Wonderful. What are everyone's questions? All right, got one more example when you guys are ready. Oh. So, what type of angle is angle ABC? Use this fact to find the measure of x. This is tricky. So first of all, this question right here. What type of angle is this? ABC is a what? Straight angle. Straight angle is actually the only one you can just look at and know. The other ones you have to be given some sort of symbol or some sort of measure. Straight angles, though, those you can just follow your instincts on. That measures what if it's a straight angle?
180.
180. So I know that this guy and this guy put together should equal 180. So how would I write that equation? Yes, I thought you were being rude, but I don't think you are being. He said blah, 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 blah. I think you meant 6x plus 40 as the first blah, blah. Then put a plus sign. Then the other angle measure, 4x plus 10, all equals that straight angle measure, which is 180. We do a lot of this in geometry. A lot of looking at a diagram, writing an equation, and then using algebra to solve for the variable. So if I'm going to use my algebra skills, what is 6x plus 4x? 10x plus 50 equals 180. Subtract 50 from both sides. What is that, 130? Then what? All right, raise your hand if you have any questions. If not, I'm going to give you guys your homework. You have the rest of class to do it. You should be getting it done. Tomorrow we will spend the day reviewing. You have a quiz on Friday.